there, my name is Kelly Dale with offthebeadedpath beadstore.com. I'm so excited to welcome you to week 1 of our summer Bead-Along. Back before Christmas, I was looking through some of my older books that I had, and I came across my tried and true copy of the Beaded Sphere by Judy Walker. And I was thumbing through the book, and I found a project. Stars and Stripes Forever is the name of the project that came out of this book. And I immediately said, oh my gosh, this would be so great for us to do as a group this summer. So I contacted Judy. Judy was super, super sweet to allow me to be able to walk you guys through this project for the next couple of weeks. Not only was she amazing and giving me permission to do this, but she actually wrote you guys a new pattern for the project that she is allowing to give away for free. So I am so thankful to Judy. But I do want you to know, you need to show Judy Walker some love for letting us do this. You can still find her book on her website called Walker Publications. She still has copies of the book. And if you have never seen this book, it is an amazing book that will walk you through some great projects. She also has some other projects available on there that you can see. So definitely go and check out Judy's website, walkerpublications.com. And if you feel so inclined, make sure to grab a copy of her book. I promise you, it will be great reading and great resource for you as you go through in your beading journey. So let's take a look at what we're going to need to do this amazing project. So for the beads, for the sphere that we're going to be making today, you're going to need 3 colors of a cylinder shape bead. So when you look at the pattern, Judy specifically calls to use echo beads, but she said that you can use a treasure bead, you can use a delica bead, anything that has that cylinder shape. She said that round beads are not going to work well for the project, so make sure it's a cylinder shape bead. For my sample, I'm going to be using a size 11 delica bead. Now again, she wrote it for 3 colors, specifically for the red, the white, and the blue. So for the red, you're going to need 4 grams. The white, you're going to need 8 grams. And the blue, you're going to need 6 grams of beads. Along with that size 10 or 12 needle that you're going to be using, you also need a thread that is a thinner size thread. So definitely do not go over something that is heavier than a NYMO size D or a 4-pound fire line. You want to stay in those thinner threads because we are going to be going through the beads several times. So if you try to use a size 10 needle or thicker thread, you are going to bust beads. And ask me how I know. Learn from my mistakes. So 11 or 12 needle. And thread, can use a NYMO. You can use a 4-pound fire line. The Wildfire Ultra would work really great for this project. Your 1G, your KO, your Miyuki thread, all of those are going to work really well. You're also going to need a nice sharp pair of scissors because we're going to do a lot of thread cutting in this project. So either your scissors or a thread zapper, and lots of patience. So let's go ahead and get started. Step 1 tells us we are going to thread our needle with a wing span of thread, which is about 5 feet. This is a great time that if you have some red or blue thread, maybe you've used it on another project, this is a great time to pull out those threads and use them. I actually used several different colors throughout all these little stars that I've made, but red, I really like how the red looks with it. I'm going to use blue today so that you can see it really easy, but any color thread will work. But if you've got these will be great. You can also see I have my colors laid out here. This is where you can see that I was working on another color for this project. I love the color scheme, but I constantly had to remind myself which color was which in the pattern. So you'll definitely, if you decide to do that, this is a good hint to write red, white, and blue there, so you will know exactly which colors are supposed to go where. So the pattern says we are going to be picking up 50 beads to start. And with these 50, we are going to be picking up a pattern of 2 blue, 1 red, 2 blue, 2 white, 1 red, and 2 white. So you can see here we have our 2 blue, 1 red, 2 blue, 2 white, 1 red, and 2 white. So we are going to continue picking up this pattern of beads. This is 10 beads. So we're going to continue repeating this pattern 4 more times for a total of 50 beads. Once you have all your beads threaded on, you should have 5 sets of blue and 5 sets of the white. If you mess up, make sure that you only pick up 5 sets. If you pick up 6 sets, this is what you're going to get, and it's not going to be right. So make sure you only pick up 5 sets of these. You are going to let these drop down and leave yourself about a 4 to 6 inch tail thread. And then from our tail down here, we want to pass through all the beads again. So I'm just going to take the needle and start passing through them. Make sure that you don't skip any of the beads as you pass through. And hold that little tail thread and pull the thread through all the way. And then just continue to pass through the beads. Once you've passed through all the beads, your piece should look something like this. Even though we're coming back out at that very first bead, there is a specific spot we need to come out of to get started. And Judy says we need to come out after we have passed through 2 white beads, between a white bead and a red bead, with the red bead next, right after the needle. So I'm coming out of the blue bead, that very first bead I added, and I'm just going to continue to pass through the beads until I am coming out of the white bead right before the red bead. And now this is how I know I am in position to start the next piece. There is a note in the pattern that you want to pay attention to. Right now we have a circle. In the pattern itself, it looks like a pentagon. They are just like this because this is the shape that we are going to end up with. And so the illustration will develop into the pentagon as we work. But this is what your pieces looks like. Just right now, we have it in a circle rather than this shape. Now that you're in position to start the next step, it says for round 2, we're going to continue in the same direction that our thread is exiting. So my thread is exiting in this direction, so I'm going to continue that way. We're going to pick up 2 white beads. We're going to skip the red bead and go through 1 white bead. The place here where we are popping in these 2 white beads, this is going to become the corner of our pentagon. So anywhere where we put 2, that is going to become a corner. So for the next 4 single stitches, this is what we're going to put in. We're going to thread on a blue bead. We're going to skip a white bead and go through a blue bead. We're going to pick up 1 white bead. we are going to skip a blue bead and go through a red bead. And when I do this, I like to try and keep my thumb and my pointer finger over those beads, so it will help to kind of hold them in place, staying to the outside as I work. I'm going to pick up a white bead. I'm going to skip a blue bead and go through a blue bead. And pull this through. And then I'm going to thread on a blue bead, skip a white bead, and go through a white bead. And you'll notice that we'll be right back to a red bead like we were over here. So we want to continue in this fashion, putting in 2 beads here in our corner, and then threading on our white or our blue, our white, and our blue all the way around. I've gone all the way around and I have one last bead to add, and that is going to be a blue bead. So when I add this bead, I do it like normal. I skip a white bead and go through a white bead. And this is going to be the bead that I started with. If I can get through it there. There we go. And you'll notice right next to it, I have the first 2 white beads that I put on in the round. So on page 3 of the pattern, it says at the end of the round, after you've added the last blue bead, stitch through the first 2 white beads. So I'm going to go through 1 and 2. And this is the step up to the next round. So at this point, what I kind of like to do is I like to lay my piece out flat and just make sure I have blue, white, white, blue, blue, white, white, blue all the way around. So that way I know everything is in position to start round 3. Now, when we start round 3, we're only going to be adding 1 bead at a time. And when you come to 2 white beads, we're going to pass through those 2 white beads as if they were 1 bead, just like we did right here. So we are going to add, right where we're coming out, 1 blue bead. And this time we're going to go through the beads that are sticking up. So I'm adding a blue bead and I'm passing through a blue bead. And I'm going to be adding 3 red beads this time. So I'm going to pick up 1 red and pass through a white bead. Pick up 1 red and pass through a white bead. Pick up 1 red and pass through a blue bead. And then we'll be picking up 1 blue bead and passing through 2 white beads as if they were 1 bead. And we are going to do this on all the other sides. Once you complete the round, this is what your piece will look like. You want to finish the round once you've added that last blue bead and gone through the 2 white beads. There is no step up to start the next round, because what we're going to do is from those 2 white beads we're exiting right there, we are going to continue down through 2 white beads. And this will now get us into position to fill in the star here in the center. If this tail thread is absolutely driving you crazy, then go ahead and thread a needle onto that short tail thread and pass it through several beads to get rid of this thread. So my thread is coming out of this blue bead right here. So I'm going to pass through, going in the opposite direction. I'm going to go through a red bead and a white bead at a little bit of a diagonal. Make sure not to get that thread caught. There we go. And then I'm going to turn back around again so I can lock the thread in place. And I'm just going to go through a few beads at a diagonal. One's going to be the blue. Let's see here. So I'm actually going to go through 2 blue. Okay, and so now that thread is locked into place. I don't have to worry about it, but I'm going to go ahead and pass through just a few more beads here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that tail thread. So you can use your scissors or you can use a thread zap, whatever you've got. Just be very careful that you do not cut your working thread. Now that you've got that, we are ready for round 4. So we're in position to where we need to be. And we are going to make 3 single stitches. So the first one is we are going to pick up a white bead and we're going to pass through a blue bead. We're going to thread on 1 blue bead and pass through a blue bead. And then we are going to thread on a white bead and go through a white bead. So white, blue, and white. At this point, we are going to pass up through the rest of the white beads here and then pass down through the white beads here so that we can fill in our other sides of the star. So again, just to show you, we're going to go through the white beads there that are left kind of in that row. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to go through the 3 white beads down the next row. And we're going to do the same thing to fill in. So as I'm working and doing this round, you can see that my thread gets very twisted going down and up, down and up. And you start to get knots if you're not careful. So the best thing to do is hold your needle in your hand, let your beadwork just hang like this, and then take your fingers and just roll them down the thread and get all of that twist out of the thread. I normally do this about twice, just running my fingers down and getting any twist out of that thread that is left, because then that will stop any tail thread that you have, your little tail thread here. It'll stop that from getting tangled up together, and it will allow you to start the next row without being twisted and getting on your nerves. At the end of the round, this is what your piece will look like. You can really see there how we're starting to get that star shape that we need. So for round 5, we are going to continue here on the inside, making more of our points. So once I finish that last stitch, my thread is coming out between 2 of the white beads here on the end. So I'm going to take the needle, and now this time I'm going to be passing through 4 white beads straight down, just like this. And we are going to be adding 2 single beads to each side this time. We're going to pick up a white bead and pass through a blue bead. And then pick up a white bead and pass through a white bead. And just like we did in the previous row, we're going to go ahead and pass through 3 more of the white beads so that we come out here at the corner. And then we are going to pass through 4 white beads. And at this point, it is getting tight through those white beads. So this is why it's really important to use the correct size needle and the correct size thread. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to add those 2 white beads on the rest of my corners. at the end of the round, this is what your piece should look like. You'll notice here we have one more white bead to add on the inside of each point. So we're going to work this row exactly like we've worked the previous 2 rows. And at this point, it is going to be very tight to get down through those 5 beads. But we are going to go down through 5 beads. You're going to thread on 1 white bead and pass through. So it gives us that point. And then I'm going to pass up and down to add on my rest of my white beads. After finishing round 6, you should now have a star that looks like this. We are going to leave the working thread. Do not cut off your working thread. And we want to come out here between 2 white beads at the corner. Then we want to take, and what I do is I just wrap my extra thread around this piece, just like this, and then set this one to the side. So I promise you that you are going to get so good at making these stars because we have to make 11 more. I know some of you are screaming at me right now, but we have to have 12 total of these stars. But I promise you, after you make a couple, you're going to be more familiar with the placement of where the beads go. And so these will go a lot faster and you will be able to whip these out in no time. I actually made all 12 of mine by sitting in the carpool line at school. I would take my little kit exchange bag with all of my goodies in it, just like this, and I would take my little tray that I had my beads in, and I just sat in the carpool line in the afternoons and beaded these 12 stars. So they won't take you as long as you think they're going to, but we're going to go ahead and knock out 12 of these stars, and next week what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the steps that we're going to have to do to get these ready to actually be put together. And then week 3, we are going to start the process of putting them together. So it's going to be a fun project. And I cannot wait to see what you guys make. So I hope you join me this week and make 12 of these stars so that way next week we are ready to go.